This is 8 Minutes of Awesome. I'm Jennifer Lipsky. Maggie Judge wants to know, what do you want to take on? And joining me today is Maggie Judge. Hey, Maggie.
Hello. Happy to be here.
Oh, thank you. It's great to see you. And that's a big question. What do you want to take on? So tell me a little bit about that.
When you think about it, there's two aspects that I always go to in my mind when I ask myself the question, or when I ask others the question, is that it can be something you want to take on personally in your life, something you want to change about a direction you're going or not going. Maybe you're feeling stuck, or something in the business that you're trying to take on, but you can't get traction with it because maybe it's more of the nebulous things like culture change and behavior change that just get harder to do. And so it's more of, what things are you looking to take on to create that meaningful change in your life or in your business?
Yeah, because change can be scary
It
sometimes.
is. Yes.
Yeah. How do you help to usher people through that time of pivot and transition?
It actually comes down to, for me, helping have the right conversations. And there's so many studies and research done out there. I know I'm preaching to the choir when I say this to you, that you think about our behavior. When we want to change our behavior, we really have to change how we think about things, our mindsets or our attitudes towards things. And that's actually very impacted by the conversations we're having or even not having.
Mm,
So I will, in a lot of cases, try to draw out in conversation to get to the root of things, to understand things more, but to also help others do the same. And so if it is in the business context, I love working with leadership teams and watching the magic happen when they start having conversations about things they typically don't think about because they're so busy in their silos, or they're so busy not worrying about that softer stuff. But when they actually put it on the table and start to have conversations about it, it's magical.
mm.
Start to see the change happening. So,
Yeah, I not only see it but feel it too,
yeah,
right?
right.
So it sounds like with communication, it comes down to kind of that deep conversation of dialoguing,
Yes.
right? And really, really getting to the root of everything, and then also the intention behind it as well.
Yeah, and it's a good point too, because when you think about it from a personal standpoint, it's easy and even fun for us to have conversations with those we connect well with.
Mhm.
And when you think about it from a business standpoint, sometimes you simply just need the forum or the infrastructure to actually have those conversations, because we're so used to having the typical meetings or the meetings after the meetings, or you have your agendas and whatnot, and you try to stick right to them, and it's, let's get down to business. But giving permission, if you will, to set aside some time and to have an infrastructure to actually have these conversations is it helps. It helps a lot. So that's
Mm.
where we come at it from.
Sure. I would like to know if there's any suggestions that you could offer when undoubtedly sometimes communications, conversations, different interactions can have a little bit of conflict, or maybe something needs to be addressed, or in some way there's it's not going as smoothly as it could go. Or are there some suggestions that you could give as to how to bridge that gap and get into that deeper communication?
Yes, there definitely is a lot of, especially when you start talking about the softer, more emotional based, I'll say, instead of always using the word softer. When we think about logical and emotional, the logical is us wanting to get things done. We've got our tasks, we've got our measurements, we've got our strategy, all that stuff. And that's the easy stuff, if you will, or the clear stuff, I should say. And then the emotional side of things is where you can bring in a lot of that conflict, because it's harder to talk about. And so the thing that I like to do is use stories when you think about our tendencies, especially in business and even personal, but our tendencies are to figure out what we have to fix or what's broken. And we tend to go there first. And so what I try to do is focus on the positive and what's working and what can we learn from that, even if it's a separate example from what we're actually talking about. But let's learn from that positive side and then apply it in our situation and see if it helps. Taking that positive side or focusing on that in the positive psychology, right? But looking at what works and then trying to apply that to our situation or a given situation and see if that can help us learn something. And the use of stories is so important because stories are irrefutable. And conflict arises when there's opposing opinions, but when people are sharing stories, they're more felt because it's experience, right? So that use of stories, people become just by the nature of telling the story, people become more vulnerable. And then people around them start to even feel safer to get vulnerable themselves and to share those vulnerabilities and more stories themselves. So the use of stories is really important in the positive examples.
Excellent suggestion. Yeah, stories used for centuries upon centuries and a way for people to really empathize and connect it and understand. That's a really great suggestion. And I'm wondering, through all of the work that you do, if there's a time when you feel vulnerable, or if there's a challenge that comes to you personally, how do you see yourself through that kind of difficult time?
It's that is a fabulous question. And I think I feel most vulnerable when I am not able to connect with someone or with an audience. So whether it's an individual or multiple individuals, I feel I almost feel like I have to make that connection before I can move forward. So I do have to coach myself through that and realize that I'm not going to connect with everyone. So the way I work through that is to, I guess, try to make more of a connection by getting more vulnerable myself in the situation. And if that seems to not work, I try to let it go and just, not exclude them from what's happening or dismiss anything, but not get so held up on it myself.
Right.
But just try to be in the moment and continue forward. And I don't know if that answers your question. That
Yeah.
is it's a hard one.
Yeah, no, it does answer the question, and it absolutely is something difficult and challenging to work through when we come to those situations.
Mhm.
Yeah, and who inspires you?
Oh boy. Um, my husband inspires me because he makes me laugh and he makes me grow. Just always challenging. We're always challenging each other, but he inspires me. I also have to say that Wayne Dyer is a huge inspiration to me with just his life story, but also his messages. Never get old for me. the the is it the 10 Secrets to Success and Inner Peace? I think I have read 17,000 times, but
That's a
um,
lot of
no,
times.
he is a very big inspiration to me.
Mm. And Maggie, I'm curious to know if there was one message that you could share with people today. What is the message that you would want others to know and to hear?
I would want people to realize that they can do anything they set their mind to. When I think of the times that I've gotten stuck in my life, I have found the support system around me and I have figured it out and I have worked through it. Even if it takes a different direction, you can always do what you set your heart to do. And so don't ever give up and don't ever feel stuck. Just reach out and find the next answer, if you will, or support.
It's a beautiful message. Maggie Judge, thank you so much for spending this time with me here on 8 Minutes of Awesome.
Thank you for having me on 8 Minutes of Awesome.